Let's talk about a system design story, a cautionary tale, really, about how the data you think is telling you everything's great can actually be hiding a complete disaster just waiting to happen.
I mean, it's a terrifying question, right? One minute you're looking at dashboards, sales are through the roof, and the very next, your entire site is down. The whole system has just collapsed. So, how on earth does that happen?
Okay, so to figure this out, let's look at a fictional company we'll call MegaMart. They're a big online retailer, and it is Black Friday. This is their Super Bowl, the biggest sales day of the entire year. They're prepped, they're ready for 10 times the normal traffic. What could possibly go wrong? Well, what's so scary is just how fast everything fell apart. At 11 a.m., everything looks amazing. All the dashboards are green, revenue is climbing, it's perfect. But under the surface, a huge problem is quietly brewing. By 11:45, the database connection pool is completely maxed out, but no critical alarms are going off. And then at noon, the dominoes start to fall. Servers get marked as unhealthy, which shunts all the traffic to the few servers left, and then boom, within 10 minutes, the entire site is offline. And the cost of that failure? It was just staggering. In the 45 minutes that the site was completely dark, MegaMart lost $2.3 million in revenue, a total catastrophe on the most important day of their year. And the damage went way beyond just the money. We're talking 50,000 shopping carts just abandoned, a PR nightmare as MegaMart crash starts trending all over social media, and just a total, complete breakdown of customer trust. So the really big question is, how did they miss this? How did they not see this coming? The problem, when you boil it all down, was that MegaMart's entire monitoring philosophy was like trying to drive a car by looking only in the rearview mirror. They had a perfect view of what had already happened, but they were completely blind to the cliff they were about to drive off. And this right here, this comparison makes the problem crystal clear. Look at the left side. This is what they were watching. Revenue per hour? Up. Completed sales? High. Even the CPU usage looked totally normal. Everything looked great. But on the right, that's the stuff they missed. Those are the warning signs. The database connection pool was almost full, the time it took to serve requests was spiking, and the processing queues were getting longer and longer. These were the predictors of absolute disaster. And this brings us to the absolute core lesson from MegaMart's story, the critical, game-changing difference between leading and lagging metrics. Honestly, understanding this is the key to building systems that don't fall over. I absolutely love this analogy. It's so perfect. A leading metric is like a weather forecast. It tells you it's about to rain, which gives you time to grab an umbrella. A lagging metric? That's the rain gauge. It just tells you how much it rained after you're already soaking wet. So to put it a little more formally, a leading metric is all about being predictive. It's measuring the current health of your system right now, and it gives you a chance to act before your users ever feel any pain. It is all about prevention. So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, think about things like CPU utilization getting close to its limit, or how long it takes for your slowest 1% of requests to finish. That's called P99 latency. Or, the number of jobs just sitting in a queue, waiting to be processed. These are the numbers that are basically screaming at you that trouble is just around the corner. Now, on the flip side, you've got a lagging metric. This just measures an outcome. It tells you what happened after everything already went down. It's basically a report card on a past event, not a crystal ball for a future one. And yeah, these should look pretty familiar, right? They're the exact things that showed up on MegaMart's big screens after it was way too late. How long the site was down, how much revenue they lost, and that flood of user-reported errors. These measure the damage. They do nothing to prevent it. So after that absolute disaster of a Black Friday, the engineers and architects at MegaMart knew they had to make a fundamental change. They set out to build a real early warning system, one that would turn them from reactive firefighters into proactive problem solvers. And their plan was pretty straightforward, broken down into 4 phases. First, and most obviously, add the critical leading metrics they were totally blind to. Second, and this is crucial, automate the responses, because in a crisis, humans are just too slow. Third, build a dashboard so they could actually see how these metrics relate to each other. And finally, use all their past data to make their alerts way smarter. Okay, so how did they actually put this into practice? Their new system was built on really simple if-then logic. For instance, what if the system detects that the database connection pool is getting dangerously full? Let's say it crosses an 85% threshold. Then, without a human ever touching a keyboard, the system automatically spins up more database read replicas. It just instantly adds more capacity to handle the load. The problem gets solved before it ever even becomes a crisis.
Let's do another one. What happens if the system notices that the slowest user requests are taking longer than half a second? This is a classic leading indicator that users are about to get really frustrated.
The automated response here is actually pretty clever. It's a two-part move. The system instantly activates a more aggressive caching layer to serve content faster. And at the exact same time, it pauses non-critical background jobs, things like sending out marketing emails, to free up every possible resource for actual customer transactions. And with this new early warning system in place, MegaMart went from being a cautionary tale to, well, a story of total dominance. Let's see how the very next Black Friday played out. Check out this timeline. It starts almost exactly the same as the year before. At 11:15 a.m., a leading metric fires an alert. Database connections are getting high. But this time, just 1 minute later, the automated system kicks in and scales the database. And the result? Absolutely zero impact on customers. The crisis was completely stopped before it even began. And the impact on the business? Well, this chart says it all, doesn't it? The year of the crash, they barely limped to $2.3 million in revenue. The very next year, with their new system, they soared to $12 million. That is the difference between measuring the past and actually predicting the future. So what are the big takeaways from all this? First and most important, leading metrics are for preventing disasters, lagging metrics are just for measuring them. Second, you have to automate your responses, because when things go sideways, humans are simply too slow. And third, and this is a big one, you have to understand that technical metrics are business metrics. Things like latency and queue depth are direct predictors of your revenue. We'll end on this idea, because it really gets to the heart of it. MegaMart's story is a lesson in foresight. Building resilient systems isn't just about handling failure when it happens. It's about seeing it coming from a mile away and steering clear long before you get there. After all, you just can't manage a problem you can't see coming.